Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some very fun battles in the Open Ultra League, featuring my brand new Rank 1 XL Blastoise. Blastoise is a pure Water-type Pokemon with the moveset of Water Gun, Hydro Cannon, and Ice Beam, and thanks to a recent Squirtle event, I finally have enough XL candies to use it. I tested it out in a team popularized by Matt Beer, and honestly, XL Blastoise is an absolute beast. The bulk is just unreal. So without further ado, let's up in the matches and check out XL Blastoise in action in the Ultra League. Hopping to the first match, we see a Core Breaker on the lead, Talonflame into Jellicent. Now Jellicent does very well against this entire team, so this is not a fun Pokemon to see. I'm going to let the Surf through, as I will be able to tank it. I'm going to throw one more Incinerate, and then go straight for the Brave Bird. This is not enough to KO, but it's definitely going to leave a mark. Opponent lets it through, and now I'm going to send in Swampert. Ideally, Blastoise is the safe switch with this team, but against Jellicent, I decide to safe switch to Swampert. My opponent is now going to send in a Charm Alolan Ninetales, and I have quite a bit of energy here on the Swampert. I fire off the Hydro Cannon, they can live another Hydro, so I'm going to farm up and make it to the last second Earthquake. Earthquake will be lethal here. Opponent lets it go, and down goes the Ninetales. I've now won switch advantage, but unfortunately that doesn't really help me against the Jellicent since the team is triple weak. Jellicent is going to get a pretty big farm down. I do comfortably tank multiple Shadow Balls, but since I don't know what's in back, I will commit a shield. So I will shield up the Shadow Ball. Opponent now sends in their final Pokemon, which is Shadow Drapion. The nice thing is, due to Blastoise's bulk, I can comfortably tank any one move here. They go for the Crunch, I'm able to tank that, and I'm almost at back-to-back Hydro Cannons here. So I'm going for Hydro Cannon number 1, Drapion will commit the shield, farming up with the Blastoise and going for Hydro Cannon number 2. Now this should be grabbing the final shield, because the Water Guns are really starting to add up. Farming up with the Blastoise, going for the catch onto Talonflame. I don't get the catch, but they're still forced to throw energy. Crunch is going to KO the Talonflame. They have another move loaded on the Drapion, and I'm forced to burn my final shield. I'm looking to overfarm as much as I possibly can here. Drapion continues to farm. In comes the Jellicent. I farm up till one Water Gun shy of the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and that will win me the game. As Hydro Cannon number 1 KOs the Jellicent, and Blastoise able to hang on, make it to Hydro Cannon number 2, and that is a good game. Moving to the next match, we see Talonflame into Cobalion. Opponent is going to safe switch into Cresselia, and honestly, considering what I have in the back, I am going to want to stay in here with the Talonflame. The fact that they did switch a Cresselia into a Talonflame means they are almost for sure running Future Sight, but either way, I'm still going to stay in here with the Talon and see what they have. Opponent is running Future Sight that is able to connect and hit for quite a lot of damage. I'm going to let this through, as this should be a Moonblast, and Talonflame, despite my bad IVs, is still able to hang on and make it to the Brave Bird. This is a boosted Brave Bird. It's going to hurt. I grab a shield from the Cresselia, and now I can send in Blastoise. The fact that they showed Future Sight typically means they're running Future Sight and Moonblast, so thankfully, I'm not taking super effective damage. I'm just looking to farm up with the Blastoise and now go for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon applying pressure onto Cresselia. Cresselia able to hang on. My opponent now going to send in Giratina, but Blastoise actually can do quite well here. Blastoise goes for the Ice Beam, and that's going to hurt. Giratina farms up a lot of energy, but these Dragon Claws do basically nothing to Blastoise. Blastoise able to tank a Dragon Claw and get the catch onto Talonflame to add insult to injury. And now I can just send right back in the Blastoise. Blastoise making it to the Ice Beam, and this will be lethal. Decision time for the opponent. Are they willing to shield? They are not. Opponent now going to send back in Cobalion. Cobalion has an energy lead, but it's in a difficult matchup going against the Swampert with a shield advantage. They're going to start spamming out Sacred Swords, and I can very comfortably tank 2. So I'm more than happy to let the first one through. I decide to shield the second just to preserve a little bit of HP. I'm going to farm up with the Swampert, and no baits here. We're going straight for the Earthquake with the Swampert. Do they respect it? They do not. They get KO'd. In comes Cresselia, and the opponent concedes the match. Picking up a very tough lead in the next match, Talonflame into Aurorus. If Aurorus is on the lead, there's probably grass types in the back, so I'm going to farm up, save switch into Blastoise to try and bait them out. My opponent is going to respond with Trevenant. Trevenant able to outpace the Blastoise and make the Seed Bomb. But Blastoise can very comfortably live the Seed Bomb, and Trevenant is not able to farm down in this matchup. So I'm going to overfarm to the max and go for the Ice Beam. This will hit for a lot of damage if it lands, and it does. My opponent looking to double up on Seed Bombs, but Blastoise makes it to the Hydro Cannon and will now be able to grab a shield from my opponent. My opponent will be able to get both of my shields here, but I need to make a play for switch advantage because I'm guessing they have Virizion in the back, and that would absolutely destroy my Swampert. So I will double shield the Blastoise. Aggressive switch by my opponent as they send in Aurorus. Aurorus goes for the Weather Ball. Aurorus will get the farm down, but now I have switch advantage. So I can send in Swampert, and I've retained the ability to switch out if needed. Weather Ball is going to connect. Aurorus does have a ton of energy, and they are making use of it here, going for Weather Ball after Weather Ball into the Swampert, and I do have energy on my Talonflame, which is quite nice. So I'm going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon here. Hydro Cannon is going to KO. What do they have in the back? Is it Virizion? Yes, it is. I'm going to fire off the Hydro Cannon to get some chip, and then I'm going to send in Talonflame. In comes Talonflame. Opponent goes for the catch, but they do not get it. I'm able to build up to the back-to-back Flame Charges. Going for Flame Charge number 1. Opponent calls it. The Incinerate does not register, and they make the Stone Edge, and unfortunately, that's going to be game over. Great game awareness by my opponent, recognizing that they had to no-shield the first move, as the future Flame Charge would do more. Sacred Sword KOs, as we lose a very close game. Picking up a Dream lead in the next match, Talonflame into Alolan Ninetales. Honestly, the entire team does well against Ninetales, so when they save switch into Walrein, I don't have to switch out. I can just stay in with the Talonflame and look to apply some damage. I go for the Flame Charge. Opponent is going to let that through, farm it up, and throw it on good timing with the Walrein. Walrein goes for the Icicle Spear. That is going to connect. Talonflame, farm it up, making it to another Flame Charge, and this will be getting them quite low. Opponent is going to commit the shield. Somehow that was CMP. My guess is they ended up lagging a turn, so it ended up being a CMP tie. Icicle Spear not quite going to be enough to KO, and I'm just going to send in Blastoise to farm up. I am not shielding a non-stab move on a Blastoise. I'm going to let that through. And they bait a Blastoise. And now they send in Swampert. So the opponent, what they have left of their team is extremely weak to Blastoise. I fire off the Hydro Cannon. That's going to connect. I'm going for Hydro Cannon number 2. Swampert will be able to survive this with a sliver of HP and make the Earthquake if they want to get there. Opponent is at the Earthquake. I commit the shield. They're trying to go for the double Hydro for damage, but they do not make the second move. And now my opponent is in a difficult spot where they have to send in the Ninetales, and Ninetales does not do well against Blastoise. Blastoise, just with the bulk, able to withstand these charms incredibly well, making it to Hydro Cannon number 1 and Hydro Cannon number 2. So Blastoise grabbing shields left and right, and now the opponent in a bit of a tough spot. They farm down. They're one off the back-to-back, so I bring in the Swampert and get the catch onto Talonflame. Let's go. And now Swampert absolutely in the driver's seat of this matchup. Weather Ball not going to do a lot of damage, so I can very comfortably no-shield this and just look to farm up a ton of energy with Swampert. Watch for the catch. In comes the Walrein, and I can just farm up to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. Hydro Cannon number 1 KOs the Walrein, and I have Hydro Cannon number 2 loaded. That's going to be taking care of the Ninetales, and that is a good game. We see a Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, Talonflame into Galvantula. Galv, of course, does quite well into both Talon and Blastoise, so I'm just going to stay in this lead, play it out, and call a lunge. So I no-shield. Opponent goes for the discharge, but Talonflame able to hang on with a sliver of HP, make it to the Flame Charge, and grab a shield from my opponent. And now I'm just going to send in Swampert. They will outpace me here. I'm just going to let the lunge through and then just look to overfarm. My hope is that once I can get Galv out of the way, that an energy lead on Swampert plus shield advantage Blastoise can help me win this game. So I am going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon. That's going to KO. In comes Pidgeot. I send in Blastoise, and in the back, my opponent has Scrafty. One of the things that I love about Blastoise is due to its incredible bulk in the Ultra League, it can win a lot of type neutral matchups, even going up against a power-up punch user like Scrafty. Scrafty going for power-up punch number 2 here. I decide to let that through, and again, Blastoise able to withstand this damage surprisingly well. I'm going for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to connect. Farming up with the Blastoise. Going for Hydro Cannon number 2. This will be getting them very low. Opponent lets it through. Blastoise gets the farm down. I continue to farm with the Blastoise, switch into the Swampert. Now that I've reset the lunge debuff from earlier, this Hydro Cannon is going to hurt. That grabs a shield from my opponent. I'm expecting they're just going straight Feather Dance here, so I can no shield. Feather Dance not going to be enough to KO. I'm going to be able to make it to 2 more Hydro Cannons if they try and farm down. So I'm double debuffed, but a Hydro Cannon, even when debuffed, is going to add up. So I'm able to make the back-to-back Hydro Cannons here as my opponent looks to farm down, but they're going to be in a difficult spot. Blastoise is on low HP, but they are not going to be able to farm me down. They can debuff with a Feather Dance, but it's too little, too late, as Blastoise able to withstand the onslaught, make it to the Hydro Cannon, KO the Pidgeot, and that is a good game. Speaking of Pidgeot, we see it on the lead in the next match. Now, thanks to Wing Attack, Pidgeot, of course, will be able to outpace Talonflame in this matchup. I'm going to let this through. Odds are they're probably going for a Feather Dance. I'm going to no-shield that, and then return fire with the Brave Bird. Even debuff, this Brave Bird is going to leave a mark, so I go for the Brave Bird, and now I send in Blastoise. Looking for the Water Gun farm down. They will make it to a charge move. I tank whatever they throw, so I am going to let this through. They go for the Brave Bird, and now they're going to send in Cobalion. Cobalion is going to be met with the Hydro Cannon from the Blastoise. Blastoise will be able to apply some solid pressure onto Cobalion. Cobalion farming up, and they're going for the Sacred Sword. Honestly, that's fine by me. I've managed to get the Pidgeot into a range where I can hopefully take care of it later in the match, and now I can send in Swampert. Very nice energy management there on the Cobalion, as they are firing off the Sacred Sword. I'm going to let that through, just throw one, and then go for the Hydro. Hydro, of course, will be lethal. My opponent commits the shield. They're going for another Sacred Sword. I will commit the shield in return, and then I can just pretty safely go for 4 Mud Shots, go for the Hydro, and this will be lethal to the Cobalion. We'll have to see, is the opponent willing to give up the final shield? They are not. In comes Pidgeot. I farm up, switch, go for the Snipe with Talonflame, but that proves to be a massive mistake as they have Regirock in the back, and the fact that I switch lock my Talonflame, I believe is going to lose me the game. My opponent is going to farm up a ton of energy with the Regirock. Regirock going for the Stone Edge. That will, of course, easily KO. In comes the Swampert. I need a lot of energy, but I'm just not going to be able to get there. I commit the shield on the Stone Edge. Over farm with the Swampert, but it's just too little too late as the Pidgeot is still alive in the back. They did not take the Incinerate, and Pidgeot, with a sliver of HP, will deal the killing blow with the Brave Bird. Hopping to the final match, leading Talonflame into a Alolan Muck. I will look to save switch out of this matchup eventually, but I'm going to stay in to start. Alolan Muck, farming up energy, Talonflame, making it to the Brave Bird, and I'm going straight for it. This way I get big damage or a shield. Brave Bird connects, and now I can send in the Blastoise. I tank whatever they throw here. My opponent goes for an Acid Spray, and then in comes Cresselia. Cresselia, not the most comfortable matchup for Blastoise since a lot of them are running Grass Knot. I will fire off the Hydro Cannon. That will get some chip damage. And even though my defense is 2 stages debuffed, a Grass Knot is still not going to be enough to KO here. So my opponent goes for the Grass Knot. Blastoise able to hang on and make it to Hydro Cannon number 2. And if my opponent goes for a farm down, I think I can make a 3rd Hydro here. Farming up with the Blastoise. Opponent does not want to risk it, so they're forced to fire off their energy. They go for the Grass Knot. That's fine by me, as I can send back in the Talonflame. My opponent is going to start firing off Moonblast here. Moonblast is, of course, going to be single resisted. Talon able to tank it. In comes a Alolan Muck, and I can send in the Swampert. Swampert, unfortunately, will be hit with a charge move, and they did make it to the Dark Pulse, so that will do some solid chip damage. Back in comes Cresselia. I'm looking to farm up with the Swampert and go for the Hydro. Hydro, of course, will be lethal. In the back, the opponent has Obstagoon, and things are looking quite good. I'm farming up with the Swampert and going to win CMP over the Obstagoon as they go for the Night Slash. I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent, and I will shield back as the Night Slash would put me into farm down range. My opponent gets the boost, and that is quite concerning. I'm able to farm up to the back-to-back Hydros. This boosted counter that snuck should not be enough to KO, so I'm able to hang on and make it to one final Hydro. This is big, as this will put the Obstagoon into a range where I can KO with the charge move from Talonflame. They do not have the back-to-back here, so I can shield the boosted Night Slash and make it to the Brave Bird. So despite a scary boost in the endgame, Talonflame still able to get the win. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to try out my XL Blastoise. Blastoise, just the bulk on this Pokemon is absolutely incredible, and that really allows it to function as a pretty solid safe switch. Jellicent, of course, if that switched in, would be very difficult, but outside of that, Blastoise does have a lot of play into a lot of the common Metamons that you're going to see in the Open Ultra League. It's definitely not a cheap investment. As I mentioned, I have the Rank 1 XL Blastoise, which had to power all the way up to level 50, so it was by no means a cheap investment, but my goodness, it performed extremely well for me. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.